Welcome or welcome back. If you are new here, my name is Claire, and this is Faith and Beyond YouTube channel. And on this channel, we talk about marriage, faith, raising children with special needs, and everything in between. If this is your first time to see us today, I'm with Miss Andrea. She's been with us. She's not new here. And if you want to know more about her, we have other videos that we will put in the description below so that you can know where we came from and where we are today. So, Miss Andrea, how are you today?
I'm well, thank you.
Yeah, how was your weekend? So
I'm going to get on to Claire for calling me Miss Andrea. I am older than her by quite a bit, but not that much.
Okay, so I think this is going to be my end. Every day I'm like, you are not going to say Miss Andrea. You are not going to say Miss
I'm
Andrea.
like, we are peers.
But I think I prefer it that way.
Yes.
But if it bothers you,
No,
I
it
will.
doesn't. I'm just teasing you.
Okay. Yeah, so today's episode is one of a kind. And I think I am still in the period of learning about it. However much I have been married for 12 years, but there is nothing wrong with continuing to learn and understand more. Um, I'm looking forward to continue to love my husband in the right way and to continue enjoying marriage because I love to be married and I enjoy being married and I want to continue learning and doing better. So today's episode is going to be on sex and intimacy.
Yes.
That is an area that we don't normally talk about, but we also mess up in those areas. So as always, I have my list here of questions that I will want you to help us understand. And maybe before I start with the ones that I have here, if you can tell us a little bit how men and women value sex differently because we are all
Yes.
different.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first, I would say this is a topic for the ages because men and women are very different and we're different for set reasons. And I think it's actually really beautiful. Many people have kind of joked about how men and women are so different. Why would God ever put us together? But I actually think that men and women balance each other in a beautiful way if we can appreciate what God has made, right? And I would say this that marriage is the most selfless relationship you'll ever be in if you do it well.
Yes.
It's easy to love your children. It really is. People naturally love their children. In fact, if they don't love their children, then there's typically a psychological issue. But parents love their children, but to love your spouse means you're choosing a person who is imperfect every day, just like yourself, right? And that the degree to which you choose that person is the degree to which you'll have a healthy marriage. And so I think laying down what does it mean to actually choose someone on a daily basis is kind of what we've been trying to unpack in all of our marriage conversations. But there's no formula. And I think that's really important to lay out. There's no formula and there's no perfect scenario. And so I would love to really focus on the things that I believe that God has revealed to me over the years, in that marriage is meant to be a gift and it's meant to be an example on the earth of how he loves us and how he loves the church or the gathering of believers. And marriage is actually a perfect example of that. But because marriage gets a bad rap,
Yes.
and because we fail as human beings, even as Christian human beings, marriage has taken a dive in the fact that people don't believe in it anymore. And that makes me sad because it's actually an amazing gift from the Lord when you see it in the right light.
Yeah. Wow. What does intimacy truly mean in a marriage beyond the physical side of it?
Okay, so first of all, intimacy is many things. And I believe that in marriage, not only, you start out as friends, you see somebody you're interested in knowing, and you get to know them, and then you move from being a friend to wanting to be more than a friend, to wanting to be romantic with them. And as you have a romantic chemistry, then you realize, I want to share my life with this person. And so marriage is really about being friends, it's about being partners, but the glue of your marriage is about being lovers.
Yes.
And most people misunderstand what it takes to cultivate a lifestyle of being your spouse's lover through all the seasons of life.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping today we can, by the grace of God, unpack a little bit of that. I wrote my notes, so every once in a while I'll look down at my notes. But when you say, what does intimacy mean in a marriage? I would say it means everything because intimacy is why you're together. The legal side of a marriage relationship is for the purpose of the covenant side of intimacy, right? Mm-hmm. And so for people who are not married as unto the Lord, then it's just a legal contract. But for people who are married unto the Lord, or they're saying this marriage is meant to represent God on the earth, then they are in a covenant relationship, which is radically different.
Yes.
And a covenant relationship is one that embodies all sides of intimacy. And I guess if you break intimacy down, it's really about communication. I'm communicating with my words. I'm communicating with my body language. I'm communicating my commitment to you by how we share life and how I have no secrets from you. I'm communicating that you know all of my physical body naked, that I'm unashamed in front of you naked. There's no one else on the earth that will see you like your spouse. So intimacy is intended to incorporate all of those things, but I believe the goal of intimacy is that we would reflect the fact that God's love permeates, and when we allow his love to permeate, you see it in your own intimacy in your marriage, right? So I know that we're going to get into some different questions, but I hope, marriage is intended to be the full expression of God's love for us. So I would say the value of intimacy is that we are literally expressing God's love to our spouse with skin on, right? I am the one in charge of fully expressing the love of God to my husband, Chris. No one else does it. And you are fully in charge and really anointed to express God's love to Robert, and no one else is. That's a high calling.
It is. So over the years, I know you have met couples doing good and others struggling. Have you ever met a couple that has lost chemistry in their marriage, and how can that be? How can they overcome that?
Yes. Okay. So, first of all, I would say I don't really believe that anything's lost. I think that sometimes we just forget. And we know this because over and over and over again, the Lord has to remind his people, the people of Israel, remember what I've done. And we do that in marriage as well. We forget who this person is. And so therefore there's the chemistry or the hormonal excitement around that person kind of goes down. And you've heard the term probably familiarity breeds contempt. Yes. Okay. Well, we have to fight against that when we're in marriage. Just like I don't want my familiarity to breed contempt in my husband. Why would I ever do that to him? Right? That there is a newness every morning. And so I believe that if you really are a couple and you're looking at each other and you're saying we are still choosing each other, but we've lost chemistry, then the reality is it just takes a little bit of time for that chemistry to come back, but both people have to be willing to do it. Marriage takes time, and I think most people underestimate how much time it takes. Yeah. For example, I'm 31 years into marriage, and something that we learned probably not till about year 15 was that we really needed to begin and end our day together. Okay. Now, I realize some people are like, oh, my husband works at night, or my spouse, goes to work at 5 a.m. So your morning and night may look different. Okay. But you have to begin and end your day together, which means many times he has to leave much earlier than I would have to leave the house. But that means I get up with him. That means I am not a night owl, so he has had to learn to go to bed earlier with me. But our goal is always to begin and end the day together. Okay. And that may not be for hours, but it needs to be a moment in time. Why? Because he is the one I am sharing my life with.
Yeah.
And if we are like ships passing in the night, then what's the point? Right? So to make that connection in the morning, to make that connection before you go to bed, to sacrifice staying up late for the purpose of laying in bed and talking and frolicking and hopefully it leads to sex, why wouldn't you choose that, right? So to keep chemistry alive in a marriage, it takes work. And it should be fun work, right? But for some people
hard work.
it should not be hard work. But I think sometimes what happens is men and women kind of order their day separate from each other. And then all of a sudden to change that feels like work.
Mm-hmm.
And the goal is to order your day with your spouse,
Yeah.
right? So that our days are intertwined.
Wow. A lot of work to do. So, is it normal for intimacy to frequently change during difficult seasons?
Yes, that is normal. And I'm assuming by intimacy, you mean at this point sex or sexual connection. Yes, but I don't believe it has to go away. I think it can change, but it does not need to end. For example, this last year, we lost my mom. It was time for my mom to be done on this earth, and it was a devastating time for me. But that didn't mean that my intimacy with my husband needed to change. I needed his comfort. And I think what we have done is we have kind of categorized sex in one category of marriage versus saying it's a part of your whole marriage. Your sexual intimacy with your spouse is the glue that holds your marriage together. And that has been misunderstood. And so even in a difficult time, that sexual frolicking and being naked together and holding one another and allowing yourself to pleasure one another and enjoy one another, that's a huge part of comforting one another in life. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And the only time really that intercourse cannot take place is right after a child is born. You need some weeks,
Need to heal.
typically somewhere about 6 weeks, depending on your pregnancy. But other than that, there's really no reason to withhold from each other. And so if there is withholding, or if there's something going on with a woman's body, we understand maybe you've had surgery, maybe who knows what, but you should seek to be intimate sexually however you're able to be without there being an interruption.
Yeah.
And then if there has been an interruption because of a painful experience between the spouses, you should seek to resolve that as quickly as possible. I do not believe necessarily that every single argument can be done by sundown.
Yes.
Scripture says
Don't
sundown.
go to bed
Okay, don't go to bed
angry.
angry. That's amazing advice. That should be on a normal day. That should be what you seek to do. All things are resolved. And that's part of the start the day and end the day, right? Together. So that those things can be resolved. But every once in a while, there are big things that might take much longer to resolve, and that is okay. But the don't go to bed angry means when you go to bed, you may still be working on an issue with your spouse, but you are verbalizing and saying, I love you, I am for you, and we're going to make this work. We may not be there yet, but I am communicating assurance to your spouse. You should not go to bed without assuring your spouse of your love for them and your commitment to them.
However much angry you are.
However angry you are, that going to bed should reflect that you have assured them of your commitment to them.
Many young mothers are exhausted and overwhelmed raising young children. So, what should they do to keep intimacy going in those periods of doing everything?
being pulled on in every way. So I have 4 kids, and they were born in 5.5 years. So I do understand. So everybody sees parenting differently, and I believe this can fit within all kinds of cultures. But the reality is that your marriage comes before your parenting. Okay, emotionally, it comes first, because at the end of the day, your boys will all get married. And I realize Ryan will not get married. He is special, and he will have a special place in you and Robert's life. But your other boys will get married. They will go and leave your home, and they will cleave to their wife, and they will start a new home for themselves. Robert is your home. He's your forever home. You will be married to him until he passes or until you die, right?
Yes.
So Chris is my first family. We're what started all of this, right? And all of our children are our treasures, but they will build a family and are already beginning to build a family now. And so what I would say is when your kids are young, you have to set a manageable home. I am not a big fan of babies being in the bed for long periods of time because sleeping with mom and dad. I do believe that you've got to figure out a way to make that work differently. And if that means only on the nights that you're pursuing your spouse, you put them in another room, however that works, the marriage bed is meant to be the place for lovers. And of course, your children will crawl up in your bed and they'll find comfort. And their mom and dad's bed is like the best place. Yes. And it can be on normal nights, right? But you have to carve it out and make it valuable that this bed is where I meet my husband as a lover. And if that shifts to being the bed where all your kids are sleeping, your mindset will change about that. Mm-hmm. So whatever it takes for you as a family and as a couple, because we've met people around the world and the whole family sleeps in the same room. Mm. And so then you have to carve it out. Well, put the kids to bed early enough so that mom and dad can carve out intimacy alone in this corner of the room, however that works out. But the reality is most people have at least a second bedroom for their children. Yeah. And I would encourage you to set up your lifestyle that your children go to bed at a good time, earlier than you. And whatever that means for you, if you are somebody who's like, oh, I go to bed at 11 o'clock, I still have a lot of energy at 9:30, put your kids to bed before your energy is tapped. Mm-hmm. And then at the end of the day, let all the rest of your energy go to your spouse. So kids can go to bed early. My kids used to tease us because I was notorious about they went to bed early because I knew that it took me time to kind of shift gears and go from being mom of 4 littles, because I stayed home and homeschooled my kids, to being the lover of Chris. Mm-hmm. And because that's so valuable, you make it work.
Yeah, that really makes a lot of sense, because if you all go to bed at the same time,
right,
you like shifting to go back to being me.
Yes.
With a lot of things going on in
Yes.
my head, it can be so hard because
Yes.
I'm thinking tomorrow this one has to do this is not
Yes.
done. Yes, so that makes a lot of
Very,
sense.
very important to carve out your life with purpose so that your children are not the center of your world. Yeah. The Lord is the center of your home, but your marriage really, a healthy marriage is the best thing you can give your kids. Mm-hmm. The best thing.
Yes.
And then every week, we did not always have enough money to take a date, but we could either put the kids down early, and we learned how to have what we would call an at-home date. We would have a special meal for just us, or we'd watch a movie, and we'd always carve out time for lovemaking, or take a bath, or whatever that looks like for you as a couple. You don't have to have a lot of money to have a wonderful romantic life together. You just have to be purposeful. Yeah. It has to matter. And to be honest, if it matters to you, you can figure it out.
You have to think through and
if something matters to people, they put their effort in, and that's what is the biggest deal. Put your effort in to make it matter.
I think from what I understand, marriage needs 2 people to be committed to work hard.
Yes.
Not one person working
Absolutely.
So hard.
Yes.
Yeah. How do husbands often wish their wives understood about men and sexual connection?
So I think the first thing where women have struggled or made a mistake is that they themselves don't value sex.
The women.
Correct. I don't believe that all women have put sex in a way that is a beautiful, healthy, it's a God-given gift. Remember, as humans, we have pleasure in sex. We're not just animals. We don't do it instinctually once a year or whenever a female is on her cycle. Mm-hmm. We have sex for pleasure and for joy and for connection. Well, why would God make it so pleasurable if he didn't intend for it to be a gift of pleasure? Does that make sense? Yes. You have to logically come at it and go, okay, this is a good thing, And sex is not dirty or ugly. The world has made sex dirty and ugly and casual. And so you need a healthy mindset about what sex is. Your body as a married person is an offering to your spouse. And if you're coming into sex and you're insecure and you don't want to be naked and all these things, then the reality is you're really not loving your spouse the way they need to be loved. Men, I believe that most men would say this. They want their wives to enjoy sex. They want to be allowed to pleasure their wife, and they want to be allowed to enjoy that experience together. And when a woman kind of puts in her mind, well, this is just for him, and I'm just going to lay there and let him finish, that is a terrible mindset. That is an unloving mindset. That is a disconnected mindset. Okay? So take off the righteous, banner that you've put over your head as a wife. Well, at least I do this, and stop for a minute and recognize what your husband really wants is connection. Men need sex, need a sexual experience with their wife before they're ready to communicate. They open up after sex.
Oh, really?
Yes.
And
And women are the opposite.
uh-huh.
Okay, so why would God do that, right? He did that because we have to come towards each other. I can't be saying, well, until all my communication needs are met, I'm not going to make love to my husband. And he can't say, I'm not going to communicate with her until she makes love with me. We come towards each other, and that's what balances each other out. I care that he needs this, and really I need it too. And he cares that I need deep communication, but he needs it too, right?
So what if you have something that is really bothering you that you want to take out of your chest, but it is in that period that that intimacy is about to be to take place?
Lay it aside.
Okay.
Lay it aside. The reality is that what you're doing is you're saying this thing that's on my mind is more important than sex with my spouse. And it's not. If I cannot say it enough, the glue of your marriage is your sexual relationship with each other. It ties you together like no one else. Both you and your spouse will have friends that you love to be around, that you can laugh with. You'll have people maybe that you even like to travel with. You'll have family members that understand you and pray with you. And you have people that pour into you, but nobody else in your life you have a sexual connection with.
Yeah.
That's it, right? And so you've got to value that as an incredibly important thing in your life.
Yeah. And for those that are listening to us, everything we are saying here is for those marriages that are really healthy. We are
Yes.
not talking about
Right.
the marriages, like people who are in abusive relationships.
That's a completely different conversation.
Yeah.
The reality is that when and if, not when, if abuse enters your relationship, you should be approaching your marriage differently. You have to approach it like you need surgery. And when you need surgery for something, you don't respond the same in life.
It's an emergency.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I would say definitely separate. This is for a healthy lifestyle marriage. If your marriage needs surgery, you have to approach it differently.
Yeah.
And you really do need somebody to help you with that surgery. You can't do surgery on yourself. It doesn't necessarily need to be a professional. It can just be somebody who has successfully navigated marriage waters, right? A marriage that you admire.
Yes. How can a wife express her own needs without feeling guilty or afraid of hurting her husband's feelings?
So I think that it's important to recognize, and again, this is different with different cultures, but I believe healthy sexuality includes communicating with your spouse, just like you would want them to communicate with you. Marriage is, when it says we are naked and unashamed, it means we are naked in every way. We are naked in honesty. We are naked physically without clothes on. We are not trying to hide something from the other person. We are naked in truth. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And so I would approach it going, I am naked and unashamed. This is what I need. This is what I would like to try. Now, I will say this. I do not believe that when the Word of God talks about our bodies belong to one another, that doesn't mean that you can do anything you want. You have to work within the parameters that God has given. Okay. And so there are places in the body that are meant to be for sexual pleasure. And then there are other places in the body that have been used and abused in sexual perversion. Okay, so clarify that and recognize and go, a man's penis and a woman's vagina are meant to be sacred. They're meant to be for sexuality. The breasts, you're touching your skin, etc. But the anus is not.
No.
And I hate to be that blunt, but we have misused. What happens is, coming out of any culture who uses women, who has a culture of using women sexually, that often is included. Okay, and that is meant to be an exit only place. It's harmful on the body.
It's gross.
It is. Well, and to recognize this, in a homosexual relationship, you have to express your sexuality differently because you don't have the male and female parts for pleasure. So you come up with other ways that are sub or below the pleasure God intended. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So stay within the parameters that God has given. And that also includes that you want to be, when you come with your spouse, what they have to offer is what you receive. What you have to offer is what they receive. You're not bringing something else into your marriage. You don't want to be watching another person's body on the screen in order to enjoy sexual intimacy with your spouse. No, enjoy your spouse's body visually in front of you. Does that make sense?
And I think that is where communication comes in.
So important.
And
yes.
Beliefs, that
Yes.
the values and the norms of your home and your marriage.
Right.
Right.
You can have so much fun in marriage with your spouse, but here's what we've done. We have taken what we see on movies. We've taken what we see on the internet. And remember, those are scripted.
Yeah.
They have music in the background and the right lighting, and those people are actors. They're not real.
They can't do that all the
You
time.
need a real relationship, and real relationships take time, and you bump into each other and they're awkward. And the point is that the Lord says in marriage, that's supposed to be fun. It's like you can laugh at yourselves. You can say, this in this moment, this other person is the only one I will ever experience this with.
Yeah.
You will laugh with your friends, but you're not going to laugh over the same issues. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot
Yeah.
of sense, yes. If a couple has drifted emotionally or sexually, what are the first steps couples can take to rebuild connection?
So something that my husband and I recommend is that both husband and wife take a day or two, and they stop and they ask one question, and that is, how have I infected my marriage wrongly? What have I brought into my marriage that is harmful, negative? It could be attitudes, it could be actions. What have I done to hurt my spouse? Don't even think for a moment what they've done to you, and don't excuse your behavior. Well, I did this because they did this. No. You have to take a moment where you own every single thing that you've done.
Praying for self-awareness right now.
Big self-awareness, right? You have to be self-aware if you're going to be selfless. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So we would recommend that you write that down, that both couples come back together, and that they share those things with the other person, meaning they are confessing to their spouse, this is what I have been like. I have been disrespectful. I have been calloused. I did not care about your heart. Not one thing about what they have done to you. Not one. You have zero. You do not get to accuse or blame or anything like that. You come together with confession. And then when you're done with that, you have the opportunity to sincerely repent to your spouse. From that jumping off point, then we encourage them to spend time in one another's space, just being affectionate and kind of reaffirming to the other person who they are and how they love them and how they want this to work. It could be a date, it could be a dinner, it could be something romantic, with the full plan that both people know we're going to go back to wherever we're going, and we're going to slowly explore one another sexually. Okay? And what I mean by that is nothing in the dark. Everything is in the light. Care about one another's body. Communicate and express with one another. Allow that glue to come back in your life, that you've had a good sexual moment together. And then from there, begin to talk about what needs to change. Now, hopefully by that time, there's been a little bit of repair of the heart. So therefore, you're ready to hear what the other person is asking of you. If you need a third party, that would be a good time to bring a third party in. But the bigger thing is this: any place in your mind that you are accusing your spouse, that you are blaming your spouse, you have got to lay that aside and put that under the grace of God. Because we have one accuser in this world, and it's the enemy of God. He's the anti-God. Okay.
Yes.
And you do not want to partner with the anti-God in your spouse's life.
I love the way you say it, that you don't have to, you don't need to partner with the accuser.
Yes. That's incredibly important, because that's exactly what he wants you to do. He is trying to divide and destroy your marriage, and that is the number one way to do it. And so deny him that. Okay? I'm not going to be a part of that accusation. So let's just say when your spouse is sharing the list that you think of something else that they didn't own.
Yeah.
It's okay, because that revelation will come back to them at some point when they're ready to see it. Because guess what? You probably also did not list everything that your spouse is feeling,
Yes.
right? Because
The list can be different.
right.
Like what he feels that I've done is different from what I recognize that I was wrong about.
Correct. And remember that when you get married, that person has the greatest power in your life. I mean, you are vulnerable to them in every way. Husbands are vulnerable to their wives like nobody else. Wives are vulnerable to their husbands like nobody else, which also means they have the power to hurt you like nobody else, right?
Yes.
And so something in us should say, I don't want to hurt my spouse. Now, sometimes we do want to hurt our spouse.
I have to
Right?
be on my best behavior.
Sometimes we are that mad and we want to hurt. Well, then we better admit that. I want to hurt them, okay? Because that's not righteous. It's not okay to say, well, they deserve blank. How do you know what they deserve? Do you know what you deserve? Right?
Yeah.
You don't see your own sin clearly. How can you see their sin clearly? And that is the best advice Jesus ever gave. Take the log out of your own eye before you go and try to remove the speck from someone else's. We are unable, literally, physically, emotionally, psychologically, and spiritually unable to see our spouse for who they really are until we remove all accusation out of our own eye. We literally will not see them for who they actually are.
Yeah. What if they were not able to resolve or to come to an agreement about anything, and one of them doesn't want a third party? What
Well,
should they do?
I mean, I think that what you're asking is, what is somebody, quote, allowed to do or should do? I think you have to pray, and you have to have a clear conscience that if you're coming to your marriage and you're trying to make it work and the other person just simply does not, then you have some difficult decisions to make. But the first hard decision is saying you may have to, for a season, kind of say, Lord, will you protect my heart while my spouse is coming around? Or while I'm going to pray for my spouse. Will you please protect my heart? Let me love them well. Because if you really think you're going to survive in marriage and you're never going to be hurt, that's foolish. You're going to feel hurt. You're going to feel betrayed, because you are literally sharing your whole life with one other person. Because the reality is you betray yourself sometimes too.
Yes.
You hurt yourself sometimes too. And so the same thing that you're requesting of them, you better request of yourself as well. So I think that it's very hard to restore a marriage, but it is possible. My husband and I, we hit some very, very hard times at different seasons. And like I said, for those who want it to work, you absolutely can make it work, and it can be 1,000 times better than it ever was.
Yeah.
But you have to want it. And if your spouse doesn't want it, then you're going to have to accept. Remember, we marry people for a reason. Maybe you married somebody at a season of your life where you weren't making good decisions, who knows what, but you're still married to them as unto the Lord until the Lord changes the direction. Yeah. And I'm not talking about the person who's in a dangerous situation. If your spouse is a dangerous person, you are allowed to remove yourself from their presence. Okay. And you are allowed to find help in resolving that, whatever that looks like. I do not believe that Christians are meant to suffer in marriage for the sake of suffering. I don't necessarily think that's the case, but recognize what is true suffering and what is not.
Yeah.
Right? If you're in a dangerous situation, you need to be out of it. And if you have to create boundaries in your marriage that are uncomfortable, you might have to do that.
Yeah.
But for the average couple who just has a fight because you're a woman and he's a man and because you see things differently, the reality is you're probably fighting because you have expectations that are different than the other person.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think you have to be careful not to assume, well, just because they don't think like me, they're wrong. It takes a lot of maturity.
That brings me to another question. It is not about sex and intimacy, but it is in marriage. What if the couple are in a situation where there is no danger, but one is lazy, there is no growth,
Sure.
there is no, like, they are stagnant there
Yes.
because one is not willing to work for the better of their family.
Yes.
And let's say that is a husband.
Do you mean lazy in like relationally lazy, or do you mean lazy as in working, unwilling to
Working,
work?
like everything. Like, looks like he has given up, but he is not dangerous.
Okay. So I think that if you're married to somebody who has, if they look like they've given up, they probably have given up, or they have set themselves up for that. I think the reality is it's okay in marriage to say we are at a crossroads. We're at odds with each other. You know, I'm not going to partner with you in this until we figure this out, right? I'm not asking a woman just to go to bed every night to roll over to a man who gives nothing. Does that make sense? That's not holy. And so for the man who disregards his marriage, I guess for that woman, then I would say it's going to become like a ministry. You know, your marriage is your ministry anyway, but it's going to become a one-sided ministry, and you're going to need the Lord. And then you're going to have to feel like you can hear from God. If for whatever reason that relationship has ended, then call it what it is. Because here's what I think a lot of people don't recognize. When a couple their marriage is unto the Lord, that means they want to try.
Yes.
For a husband or a wife to look at the other person and say, I don't care about you, then they are stepping outside of the love of God, and they have moved their marriage from covenant to contract. Contracts can be ended.
Yes.
Covenants are not ended. So the difference is an equal yoke. If both people are saying, I want this, we're just a mess, or I want this, but I'm just struggling with it, then stick in there and fight and make it work. But if you have one person saying, I don't want to be married, they have already chosen a contract over a covenant. And that makes a very hard decision for the other person.
How should a couple navigate when one spouse has a high sex drive than the other?
Yeah. Well, I don't know that I know anybody who has a completely the same sex drive. I mean, most often, not always, husbands have a higher sex drive most often, unless there's maybe something wrong hormonally or something like that. And so what I would say is this, is when you talk about your sex life, like let's say, for example, a healthy marriage, in my opinion, you're having sex multiple times a week. But maybe your husband travels. Okay, your husband travels. A lot of my girlfriends' friends travel. So then maybe when your spouse is in town and they're not in town for very long, then that's a very sexually active week. And then when they're gone, it's not a sexually active week. The most important thing is that you're both acknowledging and coming towards one another. Your husband is, I guarantee, a husband, if you were to say, what is something you want more in marriage? He's probably going to say sex.
Of course.
I want more sex. He could have sex every day, maybe twice a day, depending on how old he is, and be super happy with that. But he also knows, a mature man knows, okay, that's not probably going to happen. But for sure, a woman should be setting up their lifestyle that he knows he's going to get to be sexually intimate with his wife multiple times a week.
Okay.
And so a woman sets their life up for that. And she may be coming into it saying, I know that I can tell that this would be a really important night for us to have sexual intimacy. I don't really feel like it. I'm not in the mood. Well, get yourself in the mood. Go into your prayer closet and pray, take a shower, whatever you need to do, to make yourself feel lovely and ready, because that is your act of worship. Okay. Yeah. Laying down what you want for the love and joy of serving your spouse is an act of worship. So see it like that. And sometimes women will give their husbands what they want, oh, well, I did this and this and this. And your husband's like, what I really want is this.
Yeah.
Does he want his clothes cleaned? Of course. Does he want the house cleaned? Of course. Does he want order in the house? Absolutely. But what he really wants is he wants to connect with you, and he wants to sexually connect with you. Yeah. And it's really unfair for a wife to say, when we married, I understand marriage to be that all of your sexual energy is going to be used on me, but then I'm not available. Just the same as it would be wrong for a husband to say, when we married, I knew that I would be your source of finances and your source of partnership and communicating in the world, but then I'm unwilling to do that. That's not right. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So a husband can't enter into marriage and say, I'm going to get married so I can have all the sex I want with this beautiful woman, but I'm not going to provide for her. That's mismatched.
Yes.
Right? No, he's entering in and he's saying, I am ready to put all of my sexual energy into her, but I'm also willing to work and provide for her, because that's the exchange of love. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. I know we talked a little bit about this, but how can wives make intimacy feel meaningful instead of a rushed or routine?
Well, remember, your husband is visual. Okay, so care about that.
Okay.
Whatever that means for your man, care about that, right? And that also means making the bedroom a pleasant place. That means carving out a space so that you're not just, whatever, in an old crumpled up t-shirt, which sometimes can also be really sexy, but you are a sexual being. And when you let that out, then you will be experiencing that with your spouse the whole day. You're kissing in the kitchen and you're hugging here and there and you're catching a glance of each other and you're flirting with each other throughout the day, right? Or whenever you happen to see them. It is a good sexual energy that leads to a wonderful sexual connection. And if it is just like, okay, well, I guess I'll just roll over and now, change it up. Care enough to change it up. And I really do believe that is the woman's job. I believe that it is a great opportunity for a man to provide romantic opportunities for a wife. Take her out, bless her, love her, serve her in the home, do something that you wouldn't normally do for her. But it is for a wife to offer herself and to be presentable. She's clean, she's ready, she is emotionally ready, she's ready to love her husband and receive his love. And he can't do that for you. You have to do that for yourself. And if it matters, then you'll do it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Yes.
My other question is, some women come into marriage with shame,
Yes.
trauma, or a negative beliefs around sex. How can they begin to heal and enjoy intimacy in their marriage?
I've met very few women who are sexually healthy unless they had mothers who really talked, and then they had really good relationships with their fathers. But all women, because of the world we live in, have some sexual insecurities and sexual perversion and deviance are all around us. And so we have a very misunderstood idea. And so do guys, by the way. And so then men come into marriage wanting the fantasy, and then they get a real girl. If you really marry somebody who's never had any sexual experiences and she's not watching porn and she's doing all these things, she's going to be a normal woman responding normally versus an actor on a set. Okay. And so I think that women, I think the best thing you can do for your husband is to allow the Lord to heal you and give you a right sexual identity. Okay. And that you would begin to believe. If your husband says you're beautiful and he thinks your body's hot, believe him. Okay?
It doesn't matter what you
No,
say.
that's right. Because there are parts of the body. Again, this is an over 18 show, right?
Yes.
There's a reason why nipples are dark and round, okay? Because biologically and psychologically, we're drawn to things that have a shade difference, and we're drawn to things that are round. So women's hips are curved. We're not square, right?
They're not straight.
Okay, breasts. Men love breasts because they don't have them, and because they're visually pleasing, and we don't think anything about of them, right? Especially after you feed your children. But in that little tiny window of time where you're nursing and you feel like your breasts belong to your children more than they belong to you, ultimately in your mind you need to be going, I want, these are really for my husband's joy and pleasure and fun. And a woman's breast can be like a really comforting place for a husband. It's not just a sexual animal, oh my gosh, all he ever thinks about. No, your body restores him. Your body is what helps settle his mind and heart. It's the safe place. If you want to be a safe place for your spouse, let your body be a safe place for them. Okay? And then stop obsessing over whether you have a little weight on your stomach or whatever. That's silly. That's immature. A mature woman is saying, I am more than just comparing myself to another woman's body. Your husband wants to see your hair. He wants to see your face. He wants to see your breasts. He wants to see your butt. And he wants to see you naked and standing in front of him. Okay?
Well,
Yeah. So let him,
okay.
right? Why would you deny him that? And while women are not as visually pleased, we are pleased with sense of humor and connection. And when our husband is like extra sweet and sensitive, we're like, oh, hey, that's the same way they are about visual. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's 100% how God made them. So I think that your question was, I probably really diverted from that question.
You're good.
But the place of saying value how each other are made, like value that. And as a woman, because you value that, recognize that you are the thing that he waited for.
Yeah.
And even if he had sexual experience before, you're where all his sexual energy is going. So don't deny that.
Yeah. For the long
Value
time.
that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. This is coming to close to an end, but it feels like we can start all over again. But my last question would be, what one piece of advice would you give every young wife watching this today?
Okay, this is going to sound very American, but I am an American.
Okay.
My husband is a football coach,
We
so
are not
we've
going
joked.
to blame you for that.
Yeah, we've joked that in a nutshell, and again, this is going to sound shallow, and then I'm going to show you the depth of it. He would say every man is longing for a naked cheerleader. Okay, so let me tell you what that means. What is a cheerleader, right? The cheerleader is the one that is encouraging whether you're doing everything right on the field or whether you're doing everything wrong. The cheerleader is saying, I am rooting for you no matter what the status of the game. And when our husbands are out there in the world's a cruel and terrible place. It is a dog eat dog world. When he comes home, it should not be that way. Your home should be a sanctuary where he wants to come and relax and let down. And if you want him to be the man that's out there fighting for you, then you better create a home that makes him want to come home to. And so I would say that what a man really wants is a naked cheerleader. He wants sexual fun, energy with his wife. He wants his wife to be available. He wants his wife to want to have fun with him. And that comes in lots of different forms. And he wants somebody who will encourage him. Men are stronger by nature, but emotionally they are fragile egos. And I really do believe the Lord did that because he's going, if you want a man who's tender to the Lord and tender to things that are happening around him, then you have to recognize he's going to show his weakness to you. And if you disrespect his weakness, you are no longer going to be his safe place. So I don't think you want to be the kind of woman who causes your husband to want to go somewhere else to be a safe place. So you have to be prepared to hear his dark thoughts, his weakness, the places that you're like, oh, that's kind of hard to hear, right?
Yes.
You have to be willing to be his cheerleader in that. He needs you to believe in him
Yeah.
very, very badly. Listen, everybody goes through financial ups and downs. Every husband, unless you're marrying a husband 20 years older than you, you're going to marry a young man probably.
Yeah.
He will have financial struggles. He will make financial mistakes. Okay. So again, there's a place where you're going, recognize what you're asking. If what you're asking for is an impossible thing, then who's the problem? It's you.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So recognize that you're asking him to be, this man, and you're asking him to be strong, and you're asking him to also be your lover, but you're asking him to understand you, but you also want him to read your mind, okay? And he can't do that.
Yeah.
So what he really wants is he wants your encouragement, he wants your respect, he wants you to say he's the man, whether he's doing it all right or whether he's doing it all wrong, and he wants you to make yourself sexually available. That's what every man wants.
Whew. It is a blessing to have you because every time we sit down, I get a new perspective on what I thought things were or were supposed to be. So to have you as a friend, to have you as a guest, it's a blessing because we get to learn and we get to unlearn the things that we have known for the longest that we were not supposed to be doing. So I'm so grateful that you gave us your time. I'm so grateful that you have shared the wisdom that God has put in you for the past 31 years. And it's really, I'm continuing to say a blessing, but to have people who have walked this journey, to walk with us, to teach us, and to guide us, it is an added value that we are getting in this period of time. So we are so grateful. On behalf of my viewers, we want to thank you for giving us these 3 weeks.
It's my joy. Truly, it's my joy.
And I hope that we can continue every time you can have time to come and share with us. So we thank you, our viewers, for listening and for being with us. This is a safe place where we can share different opinions about marriage and faith and raising children. And if you have any question, write to us, comment in the comment section, and please subscribe. We would want to have a community where we share God's love with everybody. We thank you, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.